How much is enough, Dan?
Yeah, okay.
Life is busy. Our kids are 9 and 11. We're transitioning to living in Bali or moving to Bali. So I just wanted to keep it lean. I didn't want to have staff and things like that. So I was like, this is amazing. I'm making so much money, living in Coogee, on the water, training at the gym, living the good life, and thought I'd crushed it. Then I got to a point where I realized I'm just wearing a suit.
It's a very familiar story, right? You go into the career, you're grinding it out really hard, climbing the corporate ladder, and then you reach a point going, okay, what am I doing this for? It's owning me. I don't have any time.
Yeah, I'm doing about a half a day a week of work.
Half a day a week, that's it?
To keep the business running.
I was really concerned it was game over because we were already working towards our exit. At the time, it was one of the hardest things I've ever gone through in business.
It was about chasing enough money.
Yeah.
Let's keep it real. Still wanted to make money,
yeah,
but not at the expense of time.
All right, Brod MacPhail, welcome on the show, buddy.
Thank you.
Man, it's so good to have you here. Like, full disclosure, we've been like the best of friends for a very long time. I think 20 years ago was where it started for us both. We were back in the eastern suburbs of Sydney. I remember you had an amazing apartment in Coogee Beach, like right on the beach. Your apartment was nearly hanging over the sand.
I know, it was epic.
It was amazing. And, we bonded over gym, girls, partying, money, all of those things that you do in your 20s.
All the good stuff, yeah.
Yeah, but it's been interesting, like you've been someone that has been a pretty important part of my life over this last couple of decades. We've followed each other's journeys in getting married and having kids, growing families. We built e-commerce businesses at the same time. You still have yours today, which we're going to talk quite a lot about. We've even built a home here in Bali together, which we did several years ago. And now finally, looks like you're coming to Bali soon. Yeah. So, my friend, there's so much to cover on this. I've got a lot of questions for you. And what we might start with is just, if you can give me a little bit of your background. You started in finance and how did you go from finance into Ecomm? Let's start there.
Yeah, good question. I think before that was, how did I get into the corporate financial markets in the first place? Mm-hmm. And you might recall I did an apprenticeship as a toolmaker. And in my second year of toolmaking, I started asking bigger questions like, is this all there is to life? Can I make money out of this profession, this trade? And the answer was that I couldn't. So I read a great book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and that was the catalyst for me to start studying financial markets. So I think it was my third year as an apprentice, I was enrolled in night school studying the stock market and financial planning. And then as soon as I finished my trade, I moved into the financial markets in Sydney, working for a company called Challenger Financial Group. And that began, a 14-year-long career where without my direction, with great mentoring, I sort of navigated naturally into a capital raising type of role, sales in a sense. So then I moved pretty solidly, swiftly through some different roles, making a ton of cash. So I was like, this is amazing. I'm making so much money. In the mid 2000s, living in Coogee, on the water, training at the gym, living the good life, and thought I'd crushed it. Then I got to a point where I realized I'm just wearing a suit. I'm getting up every day and I'm putting a tie on, I'm putting French cuffs on. I'm at the office at 7:30. I'm at the office until 6 o'clock at night. There was a lot of entertaining required, so a lot of drinking, a lot of overseas conferencing, and that wasn't necessarily, whilst it was great, at that time, not so good for the health. And then I started asking questions about, okay, well, what is it from here forward? And how do I get, importantly, my time back? So that was the catalyst for me leaving the financial markets. I was fortunately in a position to do that because my wife was quite successful. So from a monetary sense, we had cash flow coming in. And then I just left and began, I guess, the process of figuring out how to launch a business At that stage, it wasn't about Ecomm, it was about any business that I could do successfully and bring back time.
Yeah, so it's a very familiar story, right? You go into the career, you're grinding it out really hard, climbing the corporate ladder, and then you reach a point going, okay, what am I doing this for? It's owning me. I don't have any time.
Yeah.
And so we go and start our own businesses with this idea of time freedom, location freedom, financial freedom.
Yeah.
And then it often ends up being not that. When we get into a startup, it ends up being almost harder than the career you left.
Yeah.
But actually, I would say you're actually one of the exceptions to the rule. Because I know for me, when I've gone into a lot of startups, they've owned me. I've worked so hard.
Yes.
I've grinded it out. I've been all in. I've loved it, but it's been really tough. And I know a lot of other people they talk to, it's the same thing. But from the outside looking in at the way you kind of went into eventually into the Ecomm business, you seem to have that sort of lifestyle focus and doing it the right way so that you had that time that you wanted.
Yeah.
Because at the same time you're starting your business, I think is when you were having the kids, right?
Yes. Yeah. I left in 2014 and our daughter was born in 2014.
Yeah. And when did you start the Ecomm business?
2015.
Yeah. So you basically were ready to get into something new, but you had a 1-year-old first child.
Yeah.
Navigating all of that. Your wife Caroline had a big career, so she was out all day long.
Exactly.
So you were basically kind of doing the parenting at home while building the business?
We both did the parenting, but yeah, I certainly played a pivotal role at home with the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. So navigating all of those different responsibilities.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so getting into e-commerce, so it was mostly predominantly around time for you. It was not really about chasing a ton of money. It was more about a lifestyle business that allowed you to have time with the family and free up your time.
It was about chasing enough money.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's keep it real. Still wanted to make money, but not at the expense of time.
Yeah.
So I was happy to find that efficient frontier where I made enough money for the certain amount of time that I had to put in.
Sure. Okay. Well, interestingly, like I was thinking about the niche that you're in, right, in terms of e-commerce. And I remember in the early days, like I think I did some e-commerce courses, right, learning how to sell money online. I think you might have did some. We probably even shared some logins and did each other's courses. And what they taught at the time was, and they still do now, obviously, is choosing a niche that has got enough market potential that you can actually make the kind of business and money that you want to make, but at the same time making sure that it's not so saturated and competitive that it's just hard to even get started.
Yeah.
Right. And the niche that I went into with my wife at the time was we built a water filtration brand, right, which we ultimately ended up exiting. But for you, tell us a little bit about the niche that you went into and why. Because for me, I must admit, when I knew you went into that back then, I was like, what the? It was like heck? It was so sub-niched and so refined. I was like, wow, I wonder if this is how are you even going to do this?
Yeah.
But what was your thought process of why you went into that and what is it?
Yeah, well, it's a lowbrow conversation. Ultimately, I followed the process that many recommended back then, which was firstly write a list down of everything that you're interested in, have an awareness of, have some level of passion or excitement for. And at that point, I'd been deep in, for many years, studying health. So I was a kinesiologist. I had this great desire to understand the human body. So a lot of what I wrote down as opportunities were in relation to health. Mm-hmm. And then what I did is I overlaid my financial planning background, and I was like, okay, which of these can I actually have a good crack at making some money out of? And then I overlaid that from a margin perspective, so speaking to suppliers, what can I get it for? Trying to understand global freight costs, Amazon fees, and then if there's a margin in there. And then looking at some of the Amazon tools to understand if or what other sellers are even selling on a monthly basis in terms of unit volume on the type of product. So I was looking at the full list of different opportunities I had, and I landed at two. One worked and one didn't. The first was a meditation pillow brand, and that was very difficult to make money out of. But what I landed at and what you allude to was creating a brand called Premium Enema, which sells colon cleansing devices, enema kits, enema coffee, and all of the replacement parts that go with it. So,
Yeah. And to your credit, here you are, like a decade later, still one of the dominant players in your niche.
Yeah.
Still doing really well with it. It's allowing you right now to, live quite an amazing life, traveling the world with your family.
Yeah.
So it's kind of played out.
It has played out. And, I've stuck in it for a long time, and some of the first competitors have just pulled out and left.
Yeah.
So, it's freed up some...
Why do you think they've pulled out and left, some of the competitors?
One did an exit and sold, and then the people who bought it tanked the business. So they just folded. And the other competitor, I'm not sure if it's appropriate to say, but defrauded their supplier and exited in the era of the new Trump tariffs. My hypothesis was that they wanted to exit. They couldn't see the opportunity in that sector anymore, so they wanted to exit. And I know they defrauded the supplier because we share the same supplier.
Right.
So they exited, the other one exited, and there's still some good competition, but I'm now the dominant
one.
seller.
Yeah. Also, with that 10 years of history of stable account, all the reviews, high quality reviews, big volume, all of that stuff, it is hard for people to come in and knock you off that perch, right?
Totally. And from a brand perspective, customers certainly know that I've been around for a long time. I most likely will continue to be around for a long time. So there's a security or certainty that comes from buying from someone who is that brand.
I think definitely in the fast-paced e-com world, especially when you're the big marketplaces like Amazon, where there's so many new sellers coming in all the time, and especially now you're getting a lot of the Chinese manufacturers that are coming in with their own brands. That importance of building a good brand is becoming, I think, more and more important. Like I know we had a situation where about halfway through our sort of 6-year journey, we had the brand. Actually, it was even later. In the last couple of years, we had a big situation where we nearly lost the business. Amazon shut down a bunch of products it was to do with compliance and different things. And we basically had to rebuild and relaunch a whole lot of our products from scratch. And I was really concerned it was game over because we were already working towards our exit. And, it was a big deal for me. And at the time, it was one of the hardest things I've ever gone through in business. And managed to relaunch all the products, but the thing that really amazed me was how quickly we actually grew back up. These brand new SKUs with no review counts, no volume, had to start ads again from scratch, all of it from scratch. But because we had that brand presence and we really built a strong brand over those previous years, we got our traction back really quick. I think we fully recovered within about 9 months, and that included fixing like the huge issues. So it was a pretty amazing result, which I think, brand's important, right?
Yeah.
So being in such a tight niche, well, I don't know. I'm making assumptions. Firstly, is it a really tight niche, or is it maybe just my ignorance? I don't know enough about it. And I know for the longest time you kind of had essentially one or two main products with some bits and pieces, like some let's say things that support the main product, and then variations and things. As you've sort of gone down, as the years have gone by and you've wanted to grow it and scale it, like, has it been a hard one because of how niched it is? Has it been a hard one to think about how to expand and what type of products and things like that?
Yeah, certainly it has. And if I had my way again, maybe I would have chosen a different niche that had a bit more upside. So is there a hard ceiling? Probably. How I've navigated through that is going, well, I sell the silicone enema kits, I sell a stainless steel enema bucket kit, then obviously people are using these devices with a tip, so I'm selling all the replacement parts for the product, and they are generally quite high margin because they're low to produce, there's no real marketing associated with them, and someone who's already, I've acquired the customer and then they're just buying replacement parts, so that's good. The enema coffee has been great. Got a local supplier in America. It's the top 2% of Arabica coffee that you can buy globally. So yes, it's used for enemas, but you can also drink it. And some other little hero products have been selling catheters. So I can buy the catheters at next to nothing. And normally when someone's buying an enema kit, they might also throw the coffee in, they might throw a 10-pack of catheters in. So if you look at the margin on the sale, and the margin on the sale's decent, but there's a definite hard ceiling. So in order for me to grow from here, I would need to look at the brand expanding to a greater health brand rather than just an enema brand.
So the enema brand would maybe become a sub-brand of something else. You'd have to sort of scale up and out.
The exception to that would be I'm capped out being a predominant Amazon seller. I'm capped out on Amazon, but there is still a big opportunity if I wanted to go aggressively down the Shopify side with user-generated content and do the whole influencer thing. So I could probably build, I know I could build the business to its current size again off Amazon.
Yeah.
But that's like launching a whole new business.
So I was going to get to that because there's a couple of things that you just said in there that was interesting as well. So just roughly, how much, so you kind of have quite a sticky customer base because they buy the base product and then they have to come back and buy the tips and other parts that they need to operate the product and maybe even the coffee. This is very similar to what we had in our brand being a water filtration business. For us, about 50% of our business was the replacement filters. And it was amazingly sticky. And I think one of the reasons why we did so well on our exit was because, we didn't have the churn of customers. We had a really good customer base that actually grew and then kept coming back. What sort of percentage would you say is sort of that repeat business? Is it a big part of it for you too?
Oh, I couldn't put a percentage on it, but it's very regular for, you look at, if someone's performing an enema, it can be either for an acute reason or more of a long-term reason. And in America, the long-term reason is constipation. These things don't tend to go away. So a lot of customers will buy an enema kit, then a year later purchase another enema kit because it's sort of reached its natural timeline. So I've got many customers who've bought 5 or 6 enema kits over the last decade, and then all of the coffee and all of the replacement parts along the way. So I couldn't put a number on it, but it's quite high. If you look at coffee, there's a lot of people who are on subscribe and save on Amazon. So just every month the coffee's just getting shipped out.
Yeah, and that's what we had we didn't do the subscribe and save. We took that on ourselves. So we basically would, whether it's a bit, not sure how within the terms of service it is, but we had a lot of people that would buy the products, the initial product on Amazon because that was where the big audience was. But then when it comes to the replacement filters, they would buy through us, and we'd add our own subscribe and save, which would run off our Shopify, which worked really well for us because obviously we had better margins on our own site versus Amazon because of the extra cost. So what you just said though before about you could expand, you could grow the business as in its current state quite a lot bigger if you just focused on other channels, right? So Shopify, what's been your main reason of why you haven't done that? Why haven't you gone down the Shopify route and put the energy and the time and the money into that rather than just keep doing what you're doing?
How much is enough, Dan?
Yeah, okay.
You know what I mean? So life is busy. Our kids are 9 and 11. We're transitioning to living in Bali or moving to Bali. The amount of time to launch another business, it's a big commitment. And unlike you, I've always been a one-person operator. I've done it without support, without staff. And in fact, the approach I've taken was if I needed someone to support the business, I just didn't do it. So I just wanted to keep it lean. I didn't want to have staff and things like that. So to launch another business or to expand the current business into Shopify, I would need to bring people on. And that's something I'm willing to do, but right now, I haven't got the 10 hours a day plus that I want to invest into that. And where you started, which is how much is enough. We've had so many of these kind of conversations in our personal phone calls, and whatever, when we hang out, we talk about this stuff all the time. And it's something that I now work on with clients at the moment, which is, it's very easy in business in general, but especially if you're someone like me who's quite aggressive and wants to shoot for the stars,
if you don't sort of have that, what is enough, and what is it you're really doing this for?
Yeah.
It's very easy to just keep chasing, right? There's always a next level, and it's very attractive to keep going for the next thing. And I guess one of the things that I've always admired with you, and one of the things that I always will often sort of refer to for myself, is I'm like, I wonder how Brod would what would he do in this situation? I don't know, you do a bit the same. What would Dan do?
What would Dan do? Yeah.
So we do that on each other because we think about things very differently, and I think we probably balance each other quite well. But so for you, you're making good money. The business is doing well, but it's allowing you to live a very nice lifestyle. And so to have to go and put that effort into a whole nother channel, there's got to be a real compelling reason for doing it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right now, that reason's not there.
It's just not there at the moment,
Yeah.
Not to say that at any moment you can decide to do it, right?
Exactly. One thing I consider is, do I wake up excited about the business?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say that I wake up every day excited to continue at least growing a global enema business.
Yeah.
So the discussion will be more around, do I expand the current or do something else that is a bit more exciting and passionate?
It's interesting after 10 years too. We're all growing and getting older, and your interests change and all of those types of things. And so to stay engaged in something for that long, when it gets quite boring when they get operational and it just gets kind of standardized. In some ways it's nice because you can sit back and just rake in the money, but it's kind of boring at the same time. I lose interest a little bit unless there's something, I don't know, I almost feel like I'm a sucker for punishment sometimes, that I like it to be hard and difficult. It's like, why am I doing this to myself? I could just sit back and rake in the cash at this point. But no, I tend to go for different things.
Well, I'm doing about a half a day a week of work.
Half a day a week, that's it?
To keep the business running. Yeah. That doesn't mean it's growing.
Yeah.
It just means it's...
Yeah, but it's consistently stable, and it's been pretty good.
Correct,
like you still obviously have to ride the markets and ups and downs of what's going on in the world, right? Like you're not immune from that, I'm sure.
Yeah. And obviously the Trump tariffs have made it a challenging last 12 months in navigating those type of things.
Yeah. But that sounds like you're coming out the other side of that too, right? Yeah. So you touched on it before. You've managed to do this for 10 years.
Yeah.
Just you, without even a VA. Like, you've had no one in your team. And when I think about, my journey, like, we still weren't a huge team. Probably had about a dozen people.
Yeah.
But when you look at, the size of our businesses, sure, we were a bit bigger, but we weren't astronomically bigger than where you are. And yeah, I had a dozen people to manage. And one of the things that I think about is, product selection, right? So because we were in water filtration, the products themselves were a little bit technical. There were multiple pieces of the product that went together. The filters themselves had a lot of different compounds in them. And because we were selling sort of a bit of a premium product, the customers were really savvy and intelligent customers. So they knew a lot about the products, and they would really test you. They'd ask a lot of questions. And so we found that because of the setup involved, because of the technical nature of the product, also because it's a health product like yours, people, really want to make sure they're ingesting something out of this product. They want to know it's right for them. And Monica and I really wanted to make sure we really had a great product. We were really passionate about what we were doing. It wasn't just selling products to make money. And so, we had to have a lot of customer service, right?
Yeah.
So we had people in the States and in the UK and different places. But do you think because of the type of product you have, you just don't have that much customer service to deal with? Or, how do you manage it?
Well, back in the day when I started the business, there wasn't really a deep market for buying an enema product. So everything was of low quality, and I'm not a low quality type of person. So when I found my supplier, my approach was, it has to be the highest product quality that can possibly be.
Yeah.
So that was the first step. The second step is, it's a silicone enema bag or a steel bucket with a hose that connects to it. That's essentially the extent of its setup. Some customers want to pull the hose apart and forget how to put it back together, but it's all pretty simple. We've got plenty of user manuals that we can share with the customer on the website. So I think if I looked at how much customer service I might have done over the years, if I got one email a day from a customer, that would be the max.
One a day?
At most.
Amazing, man.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So there's next to no customer service.
Yeah.
And since Amazon's doing any of the returns,
yeah,
I'm not touching the physical product.
Yeah, it's amazing. So here, 10 years later, you still haven't had to hire anyone else into the team.
Yeah.
You really can run this thing solo. You're probably, out of all the people that I know doing this, you're probably one of the only few that are actually doing what they set out to do at this point. You know, I know you worked hard like everyone in the years building it up.
Yeah.
You worked really hard, super dedicated. But to get to a point where you go, you know what, I'm happy with the size it's at now because it matches my lifestyle.
Yeah.
And at any point, if I want to go back into it hard and try and grow it out, you may just do that.
Yeah.
And you can choose when that is. But for now, you've actually got it humming, consistent, making money.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So another thing I wanted to ask you about was, you know, you've always been really data driven, right? So I compare us a lot because we're such close friends, and our journeys have been in some ways the same, but in some ways so different as well. And I feel like the way I approached my business, my Ecomm business, as I was building it was, you know, I was just focused at growth at all costs, right? So it was just grow, launch as many products as fast as I could, scale it as quick as I could, chase the revenue. You know, I was the first to try any new ad strategy, anything new. I was just constantly, you know, in a way, while I think I did have a bit of a strategy, it was pretty all over the place. I was just, especially in the early few years. And at the same time as I was watching you grow your business, I could see it was, you were very much focused on modeling out everything. You really understood things like your unit economics. You understood the profitability, and not just on the surface level, because I think everyone learns in the courses how to quickly work out their gross margin and things. But you, because of your financial background, it just went so much deeper and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until, you know, a few years into my business where we got to a size where the cracks were starting to show, and I was burning out, and I was really struggling because I just didn't have, let's just say, the fundamental stuff set up in the business. I didn't know didn't understand my numbers. I definitely didn't use the numbers to guide the business. Yeah. And so talk to me a bit about what did you do sort of from the start? Like, so if you went back in time, would you do it the same way? Like, what were the important things that you think you put in place that has, I guess, held you through and made it good all the way through till now?
Yeah, well, I think it wasn't rocket science, to be honest. But what I did spend a lot of time on was trying to get accurate clarity on what the scope for the market share was, or the size of the niche was. You know, is the product selling 500 units a month or 5,000 units a month? It's significantly more difficult to compete with someone selling 5,000 units. But I think once I got very accurate data on margin, the next part, and actually what led to the choosing of the enema niche over any other niche, was, is Dan waking up tomorrow wanting to launch a global enema brand? And most people aren't. Yeah. So I think what that meant is I didn't have a huge amount of competition coming in, new entrants coming in, trying to sell the yoga mats or things like that. So from day one, always data-driven, always margin-driven, and every decision I've made was filtered through the lens of what's the upside in growth versus the cost in profitability. And then I'd make a decision as to whether I did it or didn't do it based on that.
Yeah. I remember one time we had a conversation and you told me you just turned all your Amazon ads off. Yeah. And I was like, what do you mean you turned your ads off? Because for me, my ads were probably, I don't know, the sales generated from my ads was probably about half the revenue in the business because I was very, very aggressive on ads. However, the return that I was getting on the ads was often quite low, there was quite a few years where we were either not profitable or low single digit profit margin at the same time as launching lots of new products. And so trying to cash flow all that myself on lousy profits and the way Ecomm works where your money's tied up in your inventory all the time, it was a very, very hard way to scale. And so at that time when we talked and you said you just turned your ads off and I asked you why, you basically had just run the numbers to show that. And I think you started by doing a test, I think, right? You turned the ads off for a period of time.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, do you remember the story? What was the point? Why did you do it?
Of course I do.
You should probably still do it now. Yeah.
Yeah, well, firstly, if margin's running at 30% on a product and my cost of sales, the advertising ACoS is 40 or 45%, I'm losing losing profit, I'm losing cash on every advertising sale. What people say is, yes, but it's the sales you're getting through the advertising on Amazon that pushes up your organic sales rank.
Yeah.
Right? So you're getting more organic sales because of the advertising, even if it's running at a loss. And that's all cool, but I was like, well, I wouldn't mind finding out whether that's actually true or not.
Yeah.
Right? Do my organic sales stay constant if I turn advertising off? Does my page rank, if I'm in position, 1, 2, or 3, do I drop down to 6, 7, or 8?
Yeah.
You only know if you turn it off. So it was an experiment, really, to see if it worked.
And I think where we were probably different in that time was I was all in. So we were pushing every bit of money we were making in that business. We were pushing straight back into more products, launching across different channels, more markets. We were just, I was just trying to grow as quick as I possibly could. And because I was doing that, I didn't have that luxury where I didn't have enough cash buffer to be able to do something. That would have terrified me, or did terrify me to turn off my ads or something like that at that time. Whereas one of the things I've always watched with you is, I think when you went into your e-commerce business, like you said, Caroline, was on a big salary, earning good money, and you'd also had made a lot of money yourself in your previous career, so you had a good buffer on the sidelines,
of course,
and so you could actually, play a little bit, right? You could actually afford to, I guess, turn off ads, and if it didn't work, you can turn ads back on.
Yeah.
I guess if you were now giving the advice to someone who's brand new in Ecomm, they've just started with, let's say they got $10,000 and they're launching their first ever brand and first ever product, how would you balance out pushing for growth versus pushing for profitability? Because there's a point, right, where if you're just always focused on the profitability, it's very hard to grow.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's this nice sort of, I guess it should go in phases almost. Sometimes you should go, okay, we're going to accept lower profitability because we're pushing for growth right now. But there has to be a point where you go, okay, let's return to profitability. Otherwise, we're just chasing growth, which, So what would you say to someone who's kind of new at it now?
Well, I didn't make money for a couple of years. So, I had to invest in growth. Right now, should someone be advertising? Of course they should be.
Yeah.
I use an AI-based advertising platform now, and it's been marvelous. So it's actually running my ads at profitability. So in that sense, the budget is uncapped.
Okay.
So it's still growing at margin.
Okay.
So
I was going to ask you about tools as well, because obviously it's been quite a few years since we sold our e-com business.
Yeah.
So in some ways, I feel a little bit out of touch with being in the weeds of an e-commerce business. Like where I'm working with people now is kind of more, I guess, on a lot of the fundamental stuff around getting profitable, and then the scalability, the strategy behind that, and then the exit. Right. So I'm sitting more at that strategic level, but when it comes to the tools, that's probably a good place to start. That tool that you mentioned, because you've mentioned this one to me before. Yeah. Isn't that one that you said that's only available in certain niches or certain verticals? Is that something that anyone could access now, these types of ad tools, AI ad tools? I'm sure there's multiple different AI ad tools out there. Yeah. Certainly the one I use wouldn't be the only. It's called Cortile. Cortile. And it generally, we were invited into it. Mm-hmm. We being my wife and I. Yeah. So, it's specific to health brands. So, they're a bit, clicky in who they want to work with. Sure. So, yeah. And so run me through how it works. How does it? So it actually does all your bidding and budgets. You just set profitability targets, or what sort of metrics, or? Yeah, basically I just set its target ACoS. Yeah. So I might go in and say 40%. Yeah. And these are the products that I want you to run. Yep. And I tell it what the budget is. Okay. So in the early days of using it, which was about 2 years ago we started, it was I think $100 or $200 a day was the budget, just to make sure it didn't
blow out, and once it, it has to go through a learning process itself. So it starts it creates its own ad campaigns.
Yeah.
It sets the bid price, as you say, and then it sort of learns, the market. And as soon as it dialed in the ACoS, then we just uncap the budgets.
Right.
But the irony is it doesn't spend it. It's not like I've uncapped the budget and it spends tens of thousands of dollars.
Well, that would be a good problem to have, right? Imagine that you get the ACoS where you want it, and then it can just scale that to the moon. That would be that'd be too good.
But I've also told it that in my case, it's a 36% ACoS.
Okay.
So it's managing to that number. So if it tests an ad campaign and it's running at 80%, it'll close the ad campaign down.
Right.
Natively.
Right. Yeah, so it will, if it doesn't hit its own targets, it stops.
Yeah, and then if there's certain negative keywords I don't want it to advertise on, then I can go and upload those, keywords into the system.
So before that tool was around, were you managing ads yourself, or did you work with agencies and stuff?
I worked with 2 different agencies, and all they ultimately did was charge a lot and blow the ACoS through the ceiling. So I found them both to be not an effective option, because ultimately they were just taking profitability and not actually achieving anything. Then ultimately, I was just running ads myself and not doing a particularly good job at it.
Yeah, well, there's so much you can do in that space. You could spend your whole day just tweaking your ads, right?
Anyone can find the top 10 or 20 phrases that someone might search to buy their product, but it's all the other ones that you miss in that process, and AI doesn't miss.
Yeah. So apart from advertising, are there other, like these days, are you using whether it's AI-driven tools or just other good third parties in other parts of the business? So, like, do you use many other tools?
Not now, but back in the days when we built these businesses, they were keyword-driven businesses.
Yeah.
And Amazon has changed. So we had all the different tools that we used.
Yeah.
Those tools are, for the best part, redundant now. So with Amazon changing, you may not know, but they now use Rufus to search on Amazon.
Okay.
So, the whole nature of how a product listing has to be written is different to 2 years ago.
So what, it's not keyword driven now, or what's changed?
No, I couldn't explain it with full respect that it deserves. But imagine you go into Amazon now and you might say, find me an enema kit suitable for doing a coffee enema. And it's going to, Rufus being AI, it will go out and find the product that it believes meets your need. But it's not just keyword scraping like the old days.
Right.
So I may not rank for things now that I did rank for previously.
Right. So is there a whole new, I guess, in terms of now optimizing for that?
Yeah, there is.
Is there a whole new thing you have to...
Yeah, ultimately. So one of the tools I use is ZonGuru, and I paid them 6 months ago. They said, hey, the algorithm's changed. Keywords was what was. Now we're moving to what is. And I paid them to rewrite all of my listings to the new way. And about a month ago, that all changed again. So, it's dynamic. But a lot of people now are using either ChatGPT or Claude to, rewrite their product listings. But it's challenging.
And I'm sure this isn't just Amazon specific, right? This would be the same. I'm sure Shopify's heading in the same direction, and any channel's probably doing the same. It's all heading that way, right?
Yeah, like Shopify's built into ChatGPT now, so you can find any product on ChatGPT that's on Shopify. Right. But do I rank?
Yeah. So people are using ChatGPT or Claude as essentially like a search engine to find products.
100%.
Yeah. So they're asking, I guess, because you can get more. You can ask a lot more targeted, tailored questions to yourself specifically. Yeah. So you can make it work harder to find the right product for you, rather than just, like you said, a keyword search. It brings up a whole lot of options.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I've tested it, and I'll go, find me an enema kit in America, the best enema kit, and I might show. But then I'll write it in a different way and I won't show.
Interesting.
So it's optimizing, these
Yeah, okay.
AI platforms.
And so there's going to be more and more, I'm sure, like in every industry, we're going to see more and more AI tools coming into Ecomm every single month. And
100%. And over the last 6 months, I've seen that my sales have been weaker than I would normally expect them to be.
Okay.
Now, that could be because of all the tariffs sort of destabilizing
Yeah.
the status quo, or it could be because a lot of people now, rather than going directly to Amazon, are going onto chat, onto different platforms and searching for products that way.
That's another thing that's hard out there I think in businesses in general, not just e-commerce, but particularly you see it in e-commerce especially when you're playing on Amazon, places like that, where you're essentially in their world and we're just these little pawns in there. And so many things can happen out there. Like we'd have times where there'd be a change in just how back then Google ads or Meta ads were running. And Amazon themselves would be investing in Google and Meta ads because we'd find ourselves often trying to compete with ourselves. We'd be running our own ads against Amazon's Meta ads for our products. But if there was a small algorithm change, you could all of a sudden notice a huge drop in your sales, and you could drive yourself a little bit nuts because I used to sit there trying to figure out why did this happen? Because I was obsessed with not going backwards or not having dips. Almost unrealistically, I just wanted to see the numbers always going up. I hated it if I ever saw any sort of downturn. But the reality is, it's just this stuff happens all the time. And you must have seen now in 10 years, you must have seen a lot of these ups and downs. Whether the latest one, tariffs. Then the tariffs thing's not the first time, right? It happened back in around 2018. The tariffs thing was a big deal then too.
It was.
And so there's been there's a lot of these, and I guess there's probably going to be more of them in future because it's just the nature of business. But I think this maybe goes back to then why, it's really important to have those fundamentals. Like, you've got good products that are actually good quality that customers really like. You've worked on that brand, and that brand stays strong through the good and bad times. Yeah. Your profitability's there. You've got enough cash flow in your business to be able to manage those ups and downs. Like that stuff becomes, really important.
Yeah, it does.
Right?
And you mentioned 2018. One of my products, when Trump first got elected, the product was an 8% duty.
Yep.
And in 2018, it went up to 28%. And you go, okay, that's a 20% increase, and I can absorb that. And maybe I can test a bit of a price increase to see if the market receives it well. But in the more recent change, that product went from 28 to 98.
Oof.
Okay, so now I'm like, okay, at a $15 manufacturing costs, I've essentially got a $15 duty.
Yep.
So my response was, okay, we'll now test the strength of the brand because, what's the point of having a business if you're not making money?
Yeah.
So the prices went up to reflect the change in duty.
So when we had the tariff thing, so we were right in the middle of it in that 2018. It was when we were sort of leading up to an exit and stuff. So when those tariffs first came in, I was like, is this going to tank the whole thing, right? Is it just not going to work? And what went in our favor at that time was we'd had an issue the previous year, so we were sitting on loads and loads of inventory. Yeah. And so when the market started to go really hot again, even with the tariffs there, we found that our competitors were running out of stock really quick. And we were actually in a fortunate position where we had a lot of stock, and we were able to lift our prices up and things like that to absorb the tariffs. And, we still had a really good year. But I imagine for the way it's gone in this last 12 months with tariffs, because these tariff increases were, some of them, like you're saying, so huge, like a 5x on your tariff. Even the healthiest profit margin businesses can't really sustain that unless you put your prices up. Yeah. And so what have you seen in this last sort of, I guess, 6 to 12 months? How long did it take for people to put their prices up to be profitable? And I'm curious to know, I imagine you were one of the first guys to put your prices up because you wanted the profitability rather than trying to stay lean, or did you wait and watch what the market did and then kind of went up in chunks?
I was the first to increase because I saw myself being arguably one of the biggest sellers in the niche. Yeah. I was like, people will be led by what I do. So if someone else puts prices up and I don't, well, they'll just get no sales. So I had to lift.
And your sales were not that profitable either because you were getting hit by the tariffs too.
Well, they wouldn't have been profitable if I left them where they were.
Had to increase prices. Yeah.
Yeah. The challenge was, I buy from China.
Yep.
I pay the duty. One of my competitors is my supplier, so they're paying a 98% duty on their manufacturing cost. I'm paying 98% duty on what I purchase from them.
Yeah.
So if I'm paying it on 15, they might be paying it on 5 or
Yeah.
7. So there was a divide, a disequilibrium where some of the Chinese sellers didn't put their prices up.
Yeah, because they had the margin to
They had the
absorb it.
margin.
Yeah.
So, it was a nuanced time, but that product went from 28% duty up to about 50, then to 70, then to 98,
Wow.
then back down to 70, then down to 50, and I think it's currently at 40.
Did you have a time, because I know a couple of the other clients that I had during this last year, did you have any moments there where you thought this could be the end of it? Like, these tariffs are getting so high that I don't know if the price point I need is even sustainable in the market and it might be game over?
Yeah, 100%. It comes back to what I said, the testing the strength of the brand. Like, are people who've been buying from me for a decade,
Yep.
are they going to go and purchase that Chinese product?
Yep.
Because it's cheaper. And so, yeah, it was a real consideration, and my attitude was, well, there's only really 2 outcomes: do nothing and sink, or increase prices to reflect still maintaining the dollar margin and hope for the best.
Interesting. And so, and just to wrap it up on the tariffs, like, it's obviously been such a hot topic. Where is it at now? Because I think we were having a conversation just recently where now a lot of it's being unwound. Like, where is it?
A lot of the tariffs were deemed unlawful by the federal court. So that's why they've come back down to that, that product at 40, another one's down to 30. It went up to about 70 as well, I think. So the tariffs were deemed unlawful. So now we're going through the process of even making a claim back on tariffs paid that have now been deemed unlawful. So
amazing.
So that's good. So
nice to get a refund on the stress.
Nice to get
not even the money, just the stress that it put you through, right?
Well, it's like I'm a small business, and people making decisions about the well-being of my business and my family. So it's good to be able to claim that back. Have I received it yet? No.
Yeah.
And do I need to pay auditors and things to, so we'll see if I get it back.
And so here's the question. So now that, if that's the case across, let's assume that that's happening across all shipping classes or verticals or whatever, and everyone's tariffs are now naturally coming down.
Yeah.
If that's happening and everyone has already had the prices back up, do you think we're going to see the elevated prices stay there because everyone wants to keep their margins, or do you think it's going to quickly get back to very competitive, where people are essentially, trying to get super competitive?
I reduced prices because, as I mentioned, sales over the last 6 months were softer.
Right.
And I believe that's just because my prices were where they needed to be to reflect the tariff.
Yep.
But Chinese sellers didn't suffer that same consequence. So when the tariffs came down, I was like, okay, I can trim prices now.
Yeah.
So I did. But I think prices universally in the niche have come down. So
so everyone's just following as the tariffs come down. Everyone, because I guess the big thing is everyone tries to stay competitive. So as soon as someone starts reducing, and like you said, if you reduced first and you're one of the bigger brands in the niche, then everyone just follows suit, right?
Yeah. And if I expect to do 1,000 units a month on a certain product, and now I'm doing 600, well, something's got to change. And in this case, put the price down. Yeah.
Okay. So we talked about, obviously, like, AI is just crazy influence on, the entire world and where we're heading and all of that, which is awesome. But are there parts of the business where, where I'm heading with this is I'm still a big believer in just good old fashioned Google Sheets for a lot of things. I'll give you one example, which is, over the years, I've tried a lot of different inventory management softwares, and I find that they all still require quite a big learning curve. They all still have some gaps somewhere. There's so many places, especially if you've got your business spread across multiple geographies, channels, markets. Even though there's some good ones out there where you can plug it all in, it still doesn't give you exactly what you want. Whereas I go back to my good old-fashioned Google Sheets that I build, and I put in there what I need, and it outputs what I need. I can make decisions based on that. It's very easy to manage on your own. There isn't, not that the subscription costs are necessarily so big, but I'm curious for you, like, because you've now been doing this for a long time, and you're now seeing more and more new tools come into the market, or softwares even. How much of it do you still also do just with the spreadsheet?
Well, listen, when it comes down to understanding margin and profitability, it's all spreadsheet.
Yeah.
You know, or I can go onto Amazon's Seller Central and you know, put a few things in if I wanted to test profitability, you know, at that point in time. But yeah, old school, Dan. So I think once you've established profitability, what I would do if I was building the next iteration of the business, or if I was building a new business, it would be spend large on all of the photography, user-generated content, the video. I would use ChatGPT to create all of the Amazon listings and the Shopify listings, and I would outsource the advertising to a company like Cortile using AI-based tech. I don't understand what the need for me to have a huge amount of tech in between that is anymore. Maybe for keyword research.
Yeah. And so inventory management, cash flow, these types of things, you're just doing it still on the sheet
I've used
yourself.
so many different tools over the years, or tried them for inventory management, but ultimately, you know, I've just got a spreadsheet and I go, I've got 4,000 units in stock, I'm selling 1,000 units a month. It's going to take me 83 days from pressing go and manufacturing to landing it in America. By the time that shipment lands, you know, Excel says you've got 1 month worth of inventory left. Cool, send another 2,000 units. You know, I don't need to be paying a $100 fee on some tool to be able to tell me that.
And again, like, you know, I had people in my business that were running the supply chain and doing all of that sort of inventory management and cash flow forecasting. You're doing that stuff yourself. How often, like, what's your sort of process? Is it something you look at once a month? And do you still find yourself getting caught by things like long-term storage fees or running out of stock of a key product? And, you know, do you still have issues like that come up, or have you got a pretty good system now after all these years that just works for you?
Well, the running out of inventory is probably my most primary risk. And if I'm sleeping, then I get caught out. Certainly not on the hero products, but, you know, sometimes some of the smaller support products might run out. But I've got I use Xero for accounting. So I've got a pretty detailed P&L in Xero. I use A2X. So a lot of my business is software driven. I'm trying to get technology to do a lot of the crunching. So A2X will pull all of my Amazon data, massage it into a different format, put that into Xero, and then with my accountant, the P&L is quite structured in a way so I can see if there's any leakage in the business. So I can see, is sales being maintained? Is advertising cost being maintained? Has anything blown out? Has anything changed? Is the margin still decent? And if it is, I try and do as little as possible in the business and let it run itself.
Yeah. One thing you mentioned there was leaks. And, you know, one of the things you've always said to me, and not just in business, you've said this when we've talked about personal finances too, because I've lent on you a lot for personal advice on what to invest in and how to manage money and things like that, because up until selling a business, I never felt like I had any money because I always had my money tied up in my businesses. It wasn't until we sold the business that, you know, I had the cash there. And one of the things you've always said to me is you hate leakage and you hate wastage.
100%.
And so in your Ecomm business, do you kind of go through some sort of, I guess, do you have some sort of audit process you go through? Or how do you identify leaks? What do you use now to identify leaks?
My P&L. So one of the line items in my P&L is subscriptions. You know, subscriptions to different tech that I use and things like that. So it's not a disciplined, rigorous process, but, you know, at least every month or two, I will go to my P&L and I'll go, I'm paying for this tool. Do I need this tool? If not, well, $60 a month over 12 months of the year. You know, at a multiple of 3 to 5 times if you want to sell the business. You know, it's not $1,000 a year. It's 3 to 5K off the sale price. So, you know, I'm constantly running it as lean as possible. And the subscription thing's insane, actually. Like, I remember the first time. So I hired a guy into my business and said to him, I want you to go through all the costs and see where I'm just wasting money, right? Because I was so focused on growth that I didn't want to take the time to look at that stuff myself. It was just like my worst nightmare.
And one of the first things he looked at was subscriptions, and he just took all the bank balance, all the bank statements and things, and just went through them with a fine-tooth comb. And when he actually showed me what we were spending on subscriptions, and then he gave me a list of what the subscriptions were, honestly, half of them I didn't even know what they were.
Yeah.
And then there was probably another 25% that I thought I wanted still, but I hadn't used in at least 12 months.
Yeah.
And we just were brutal about it and went, cut everything that we're not using in the last 2 months is gone. And it was a lot of money. It was thousands in profit per month.
Yeah.
Not revenue, in profits.
Yeah.
Like, you just straight off the bottom line, that once you added that back in, and like you said, when you're thinking about an exit, identifying all those profit leaks can be huge. One you talked about earlier was agency costs.
Yeah.
I've also been down that path with marketing agencies where, even though I was pretty good at running ads myself and I could control, I guess, the agencies pretty well, at the end of the day, once they get up and going with your budgets, and it's not just the budget, it's also the fees you're paying them, right? They're, if you think you need whatever ACoS you need to make your product profitable, but when you factor in also their costs, you need a lot, right?
Yeah.
And so if you can get by without an agency, and so hearing about some of these AI tools that you're using now, like, for sure, it just makes sense.
Well, I think
right?
I was paying like $5,000 US for the agency previously, like it was extensive. And now it's like $1,000 US a month for the AI platform.
Yeah. I think
it's doing a better job.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and of course, that's what we're going to see in AI, like, across the board, right?
Yeah.
So exits, we've had this discussion many times as well. And, obviously you witnessed my journey, you were often the guy that I was calling, all hours, just needing some support, right? I was often calling you going, man, this is just, the process was so grueling. And even though I'd really prepared for my exit for years, we'd been working towards it. It wasn't something that just came up. I'd really worked at it. But as we went through that process, and I guess the reason why, I always really wanted to exit, because I had back in Sydney, when we were in Sydney and I had the business in Sydney, I had an early mentor who kind of planted the seed that, why would you want to build a business that you operate for the rest of your life? You want to build a sellable asset, and then you want to sell it, and then you use that lump of cash to then reinvest into other things, or if you want to build another business, go for it. But that's the goal.
Yeah.
And so I tried to do that with that first business, and that business, was on track for an exit. Ultimately failed, after I'd left the business. It was a couple of years after I'd moved on, but I had this real chip on my shoulder about, I'm gonna exit, right? And so I worked my butt off towards it in our water filter business, and ultimately did. But since then, talking with you and other people in Ecomm, is exiting always the right choice, and is it for everyone? And so, can you talk to me a little bit about, because I know you've been thinking about, do I exit, do I not?
Yes. It's something we should all consider. What I considered is, well, you look at the big picture. I'm doing half a day a week of work to run the business. It's not like I'm working every day, all day in a business that I don't like. I do like the business, and it requires only a small amount of my time to keep it moving forward. If the business is making 20K in net profit a month, and I can sell it at a 3 times multiple, so it's worth 750K, call it, right? Cool, I can get 750K for a business that it's incorporated in Australia, the company, so a sale is deemed a realised capital gain.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be in a 47% tax environment. So I'm going to sell a business that makes 20 a month for 750, and then lose half of it paid to the tax office in Australia. So I'm going to net, 350, 370, whatever it is. And then I actually consulted with Empire Flippers, who sells a lot of these Ecomm business, and started doing the dance with them about what's it worth and how does it all work. And they're like, yeah, maybe 20% of businesses are sold with cash payment, 80% are done on seller finance, which is a 3 to 5 year workout period. So I'm like, so it's making 20 a month, but I can sell it for 750 and give half of that back, but I've got to do a dance with whoever wants to buy it for 3 years.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to make 750. If I owned it, I'm just going to make $750 over the next 3 years.
Yeah, for half a day a week's work.
For half a day a week work,
Yeah.
and I'm still going to own the business. So
Yeah.
ultimately, my
Yeah.
awareness was, I'm just giving the business away for free to someone in 3 years' time if I sell it.
Yeah, you're just getting your few years up front, but
Exactly.
but big deal.
Yeah. So if you hate
Yeah.
the business and it's 7 days a week, then maybe you want to sell it. You'll get a slightly higher multiple if you do seller finance versus cash. But I was like, which is why I'm like, run it lean.
Yeah.
Do it for as little time down as possible.
Yeah.
And just take the annuity income stream.
Take the cash.
Yeah.
And then you also have those options that, if you feel inspired to grow it, you can start on a new channel, or, you could expand the brand into other brands because you've got such a good customer base. There's plenty of opportunities for growth if you want to.
Yeah.
The other thing too, though, as you were talking about it, like, and this is one of the things that I talk to people about a lot, which is that, the timing around exits is pretty important. So I sort of say to people, even if your intention isn't to sell the business, you should run it as if you're going to, right? So, and I know you do that just because of your nature, right? So you have all your numbers dialed in, have your profitability really clean, know your numbers, have the systems in place, be able to demonstrate that you're not really needed to run it. You're choosing to run it because you just don't want to have anyone else, but you could probably outsource everything that you do
easily
and almost do, no problem, right? And so I think, but the important thing is if you actually build the business and run the business as if you want to sell it, right? So you're built to sell, right? So and that's the sort of thing that you're in, and you do it that way. Then also you sort of think about market timing and things. So if you go back over the last sort of decade, when we both got into Ecomm in that sort of, let's say around 2015, selling e-commerce businesses wasn't, from my awareness, wasn't a huge thing at that time. And then as Amazon really started to explode, the multiples got stronger, the deal terms got stronger.
Yeah.
Then in that sort of COVID time, around when we sold our business, it was like an amazing time to sell because there was a lot of money in the space. A lot of people were buying up Ecomm. Everyone was in lockdown, so the whole world was thinking Ecomm's the place to be.
Yeah.
Amazon was exploding even more. And so, the deal terms that we had at the time was,
good multiples.
Good multiples, no earnout, all cash at close. But what largely drove that, though, was because the market was so hot. We had out of 5 buyers we approached, we had 4 that wanted it, right? And there was basically a bidding war between them. So we got to name our deal terms. Whereas, after that super hot time, we're now in this sort of a flatter market, right, where the multiples have come down. After so many people getting good deals, there's now also a lot more sellers wanting to sell, right, because they're excited about that potential. Yeah. And so then you've got, it's the supply and demand, right? So there's loads of businesses on the market to be sold, and then the deal terms aren't as good. The buyers as well are also very hesitant right now because of things like the tariffs that have gone on. And so I guess my advice that I've been giving people lately is, if selling the business is an option for you down the road at some point, operate as if you're going to sell it now. Be ready at all times. Yeah. Because when that market changes, there will come a time again where it's a really hot time. And the ones that are going to do well at that time are the ones that are ready. But in the meantime, if deal terms are shit, and if it's not looking that great, like where the situation you're in right now, hey, it's a cash cow. It's you hardly have to work. Yeah. It's funding a nice lifestyle. You've got plenty of space for the family and thinking about what you want to do next. And it's like fantastic, right?
Because I could sell something for $750, pay half of that in tax. Yeah. Now I haven't got a business and I haven't got a passive income stream coming through. Yeah. So I've got to build something else. Yeah. So I'm going to take the $370 that's left and then have to build something that may or may not work.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of risk.
Sure. It's also what to do after the exit. Because for me, it was all about getting to the exit. Yeah. And I thought that was sort of the top of the mountain, and then after that, it's all roses. But for me, I actually found some pretty tough times in the years after selling.
Not retirement.
No, it wasn't retirement, and then not knowing what to do next. Then a whole lot of things, but we don't have to get into my whole. This is your podcast, not mine. This would be a long story, but we haven't got that long. Yeah. But one other thing, though, I wanted to touch on was you mentioned structuring, right? So you've been in Australian business the whole way through, and that's because you've been living in Australia for that whole time until basically now, and now you're starting to look about where you're going to go next and how to structure. If you were really thinking of going towards an exit, is there not an option there to restructure that business, move it offshore to somewhere with more preferable tax rates and things like that? You could go through that journey?
Yeah, that's in process.
Yeah, okay, so you are exploring that.
So I'm exploring it. Obviously, in the most recent federal budget in Australia, they've changed a lot of the tax laws, so they've made it even less appealing to retain an Australian company, and also trusts and things that I have in Australia. So since we are relocating to Bali, we don't theoretically need to be tax residents of Australia in the future. But I also can't evade tax by doing some dodgy work, so I'll have to sell my Australian company. And there's going to be to myself, I guess.
Yeah, and there's even tax to be paid on that and things
at
like
market
that.
rates.
Yeah, you got to do it the right way,
correctly.
Yeah. And I went through a similar thing. So we're only an Australian entity for a very short time, and it was when the business was still really tiny, so we weren't making a lot of money yet. We didn't have the sort of history or scale that you have now. And we did that where we sold that business to an overseas entity. We did pay some tax in Australia so that was all done tidy and by the book. And then it was once we got into that new structure that we then took it to the moon and scaled it quite large. And then again, we had to even do more restructuring as we came up to the sale. And the other thing that I think people often don't think about is, you think about where the company's structured. So you think about your corporate tax, like, if I'm going to sell this company and it's going to sell for whatever millions, you're paying this company tax. But the real knock-on effect is where you're personally residing and where's your personal tax liability, because it's all good to have a good business structure, but if that money all then flows through to you as the owner, then you're going to get hit with tax somewhere. And so that's probably the other big thing that I talk to people about is, yes, you want to prepare for an exit and be always ready, but you've got to have your personal structure and stuff really thought through before you head down that path.
And listen, if you're an Australian tax resident, Australia doesn't care if you've got a company in Singapore or Hong Kong. They're still going to tax you on it. So you can't just offshore the business. You've got to offshore
You've got to physically move.
Yeah, that's right. And you know me, man, I think about life, I think about money in 20, 30-year cycles. So if I've got to take a haircut now to restructure, well, that's okay in the scheme of the next 20 years. I'm saving a lot in tax.
For sure. So we've talked loads about Ecomm, which is great, because I did have a lot of Ecomm questions for you, but I want to gear change a little bit, which is what you've been doing over the last sort of 18 months or so. And so, obviously having this amazing, online business that's allowed you to only work half a day a week, you've basically gone ahead and sold off a lot of assets in Australia, pulled the kids out of school, bought yourself a big, massive truck, a big caravan, and you've sort of been touring Australia for the last 12 months or more?
A year yesterday.
Yeah. So what inspired that, first of all? What made you want to go and do that trip?
I think on the tail end of COVID, I just got to a point, where I was like, we had an acreage site in Sydney. We're living on a few acres. It's $5,000 in building insurance. It's $5,000 in rates to the local government. It's 15, 20 grand out a year just to have the infrastructure set up to turn lights on, just all these, what I would call taxes, being on an acreage site where I'm on the lawnmower a day a week, and part of me was like, there's got to be more to life than this. And life was complicated in a financial sense. We had a lot of different assets in different places, and I was just like, I said to Caroline one day, I think we're in our hot sauna at home, and I was like, I think we just need to start selling assets, and what do you think about jumping in a caravan and traveling around Australia? And Caroline, being Caroline, the next day had planned the whole thing, and it was happening.
Awesome.
So and I think we're very gypsy-like in, we've lived in multiple different houses, not, generally a few years at a time in any one place. We'd get itchy feet and then would leave. So part of the wanting to go around Australia in a caravan was going, maybe we'll find somewhere in Australia that we want to put roots down and relocate to, or maybe we'll just move to Bali. So, and obviously we're in the move to Bali aspect. But man, it's been amazing. It's been amazing to spend a year full time. Many people might disagree, but a year full time with our kids. I think they're 9 and 11 now, so these are just pivotal periods in their life where I get full immersive, experience and connection with them. So it's been amazing. But man, I didn't realize how much noise and stress owning all of these different houses and having this complex. Even though my business is very lean, everything else in my life was very busy and very noisy. So it's been just refreshing and relaxing to
just simplify. Well, one of the things you've told me about is, not only did you sell off the big assets, but you've literally got rid of basically all your possessions. You got rid of almost everything in this sort of lead up to moving over here. Whereas I have a wife who doesn't like to let go of stuff so easy. So we have a ton of stuff back in storage still in Australia, and it does feel like a lot of burden. And I also do hear on the complexity of having a lot of stuff, and I feel a little bit like that now. We've got just so much going on in our lives that I go, I don't even need this. Like, why am I? And they're all choices that we made, right? You built what you built, and you acquired what you acquired, and it's kind of nice to unravel it, though. Right? It feels good.
100%. And all of our furniture was we put it all in storage. We put the essentials in storage. We got rid of most things and then just kept all bulky furniture and fridges, washing machines, things like that. And I think it was a couple of months ago, I said to Caroline, we're about to go overseas, and I said, I'm flying back to Sydney and I'm giving everything away. And I literally just jumped on Marketplace and gave $7,000 lounges away for free.
Amazing. People scored getting all your stuff.
They were super appreciative. And after it was all done, it was a bit, I felt uneasy about it, but once
there's a lot of money, but once you do it, it's like,
you're attached to what you put down
what
to
you've
get
spent,
it all.
right?
And then it's like, hold on, I'm actually paying to store all this stuff.
And the what ifs of what happens if we decide we want to come back 6 months later and we've just given everything away.
Exactly. And our attitude was, if we come back, we'll just buy it again.
You just buy it again.
You know what I mean? But now that it's all gone, I'm like, I feel amazing. It's great.
And so going on this road trip, with the family, because when you first told me what you were doing, I was like, sounds cool, but at the same time, I'm like, do I want to be in a small box with my family for that sort of intensity?
It's a real consideration,
And I think the thing that I as I thought about what you guys are doing, because in some ways it's really beautiful to spend that, being such a tight little family unit, it's amazing. But did you have to, or maybe you were already there, but I feel like for me, I'd have to go through a bit of a mindset shift around just what I was going to be able to get done on that trip. I'm pretty focused on whatever I'm building or working on at the time, and I'm pretty ruthless around my time and my structure and all of that. Whereas you would have to imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, go to a pretty free kind of, I guess, very flexible way of living, working, and all of that. And did you have to sort of prepare for that?
Well, I didn't have to prepare for it because I sold most of the houses, or we'd sold most of the houses. The business was already set up to run systematically by itself without a huge input from me, apart from having to reorder inventory. So I guess my attitude was, well, we'll see how little I can do in the business, and see if it still carries on. So you're a morning person. I'm not. I'm a night person. So in the caravan, the kids I'll go down to bed. Caroline might go to bed, and I'll stay up for an hour, do a little bit of work, keep the business ticking along, and that's it.
Just let it.
Is that growing it? No. Would it ultimately fail if I did that long term? Maybe. But in a little year or two window, it's been totally resilient.
And where are you now? Like, do you feel like you're, obviously going through this relocation at the moment and deciding what to do with the caravan and all of that stuff, right? But are you now, where do you want to head? What's next for Brod? Do you want to, is it grow the business? Do you want to, is it, I know you've got a lot of ideas about different things you might want to do in the future. Like, what's next?
Well, I think what both Caroline and I have observed over the last year is that, boredom is a great catalyst for inspiration, right? So the caravanning has been amazing, But what it's instilling in both of us and the children is a desire for the next thing. So Caroline's like, I want to build a business. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to do something that's more exciting to me. You know, not just sell enema kits.
Yeah.
The catalyst and what that's catalyzed is going, okay, we've got 6 months left in the caravan, and then, you know, we'll sell the caravan, sell the truck, and relocate to Bali, and then we'll figure it out. Now, you know me, I've been, you know, in the world of health and biohacking and human transformation since the 90s. So I'm deeply into the genetics and optimizing human health.
Yeah.
So that's what sings to my heart more than selling enema kits. So I'll probably I might onboard a VA just to take care of the day-to-day logistics of the enema business, from inventory ordering to making sure the Amazon listings are up and running, to make sure there's no issues with it. That might be, you know, a 20-hour-a-week job. And then relocate to Bali, and then
go
sink
from
my
there.
teeth into something else.
Yeah.
And a big part of that, Dan, is in Bali, you know, we can, as hedonistic as it sounds, well, we can have people who help the home.
Yeah.
In terms of
That's why I'm here, man.
gardens and cooking and cleaning and things like that. So Caroline and I can be super focused on what we want to be doing, and still allowing bandwidth in the family to spend time with the kids.
Yeah,
So
it's still that's definitely one of the key things that sort of kept us in Bali.
Yeah.
Like, you know, over the years we have our times where we think, you know, is our time here done? Do we want to move on? There's some amazing parts about living here. But there's some other things that can eat at you. If you haven't been off the island in a while, there's certain things that can wear on you, and you think, man, this is just, I've had enough of this, you know. Especially after building a couple of houses here, it's tough. But at the same time, we're so blessed in that we're able to have people helping in the house, so that you can really spend the time on the things that you really want to work on. You know, we still complain about that we have to manage staff. Like, sorry, it's a real tough problem. You've got to manage people, but we're very lucky and fortunate to have that. And I think you'll definitely notice the difference. You know, even around parenting, you know, to have someone that's just taking care of the cooking and cleaning and all of that, so that we can just be parents and do the fun part. I definitely cherish that, and it would probably be, I would say that, and the community that I have now of friends and family, friends and you know, great community that I have here. That would probably be the other reason that make it hard to go. You know, might finish up actually on our little place in Munduk, right? So this is one of the things that's super nice about you finally being here more, because if we go back, like, when did we start that project? It was
2016,
Yeah, so in 2016, we found this piece of land up in the mountains, and our families joined forces to design this thing with this vision of having this, you know, beautiful sort of holiday house for our families to come together, and it's exactly what we did, right? So we actually did. We built the house. I think we finished it in 2020. It was during COVID. You guys couldn't get there for the longest.
22.
Was it 22?
We started building at the beginning of COVID.
Yeah. So, but you guys couldn't get over here a lot during the build because you were in Australia. So Monica and I were sort of managing the build. But then, you know, it's one of these things now I'm quite excited about, that we actually will get to start spending more time there actually together.
I know.
Because up until this point, it's been either you guys go and you go, we go and we go. I think this week we overlap a little bit. But I'm very excited that we're going to get to have that space.
Oh, it's amazing. Like, I remember when you and Mon fell in love with Munduk and then found the land, and you rang me and you're like, hey man, you know, do you want to build like a little cool little villa, and
a little cabin? I think
a little cabin.
Yeah, let's build a cabin.
Yeah, and I was like, sounds awesome. Let's do that.
Yeah,
and I don't think you would use the phrase little cabin with what we've done. So we've built this beautiful villa, and Caroline and I haven't really been able to experience it much. And you know, as you alluded to, we built it, you know, not just for our families, but for our friends and connections and community, you know. So it'd be awesome to start experiencing it, and it's
and spending more time. Yeah, I'm looking forward for you guys to be to be able to get some longer stays and things, because you've often just had some little short stays,
few nights here, few nights there.
And now the path that you're heading down, and me too. I'm actually looking forward to starting to do more up there with groups and things. So our little cabin that we've now called Munduk Mountain Estate, it's turned into quite the space, but just so grateful to have it up there, especially living here in the heat in Bali, like in this southern part of Bali where we live. It's we're by the beach. There's tons of cafes and restaurants, and there's traffic, and it's intense. The energy's like intense down here, and so to be able to jump in the car and go up there and just breathe and just have some time out and quality time with friends, it's
special place.
It's bliss. And so for now, I've got a feeling that this is like the one of many. We'll be talking again, because I would love to do another whole session just on, the biohacking and supplementation, because one of the areas that I'm really interested in is, founder performance, essentially, which is, running businesses. I really feel like we're like athletes. You've got to have yourself dialed in. But I don't even want to open that can of worms now, because that's a whole podcast on its own.
Or a series.
Or a series. So on that note, my brother, I'm going to give you a cuddle, because that's what we do here.
Thank you. My pleasure.